Good evening, good afternoon, and everything else. And welcome back to the Operation Hill 100 Heart channel where we do what? Focus on healing, humor, and hot motherfucking topics. Boo, can you turn the TV off for me right here? Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. So it's a surprise that I'm here. So I don't anticipate everybody being here with me because I didn't even tell anybody I was going live at 5. Right? I did kind of hint or allude to it the other day, but I didn't inform anybody today. So maybe I should send out, at least a little link to be like, hey guys, I'm here, just in case anybody was looking for me. Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. But the reason why I am here, ladies and gentlemen, is because we owe Drea an apology. We owe Drea an apology. We owe Drea an apology. And I feel so bad because I'm like, listen, I really, really didn't anticipate this. This wasn't on my bingo card, but it's a good thing. All right, so let me jump right into it. You guys know that I do watch a lot of Carlos King's interviews, right? I personally like the way Carlos King does his interviews. He does ask a lot of in-depth questions. He asks questions that I personally want to know the answer to with my nose he has. So I appreciate his interviews. I know not everybody likes them, but I do. So the other day, I saw that he interviewed Drea Kelly, which is R. Kelly's ex-wife, right? Now, to be honest, I didn't really initially have any interest in watching Drea Kelly. I don't know for whatever reason, I just did not. Right. So for me, it was like, okay, I mean, I guess I'll see Drea, but if I don't, that's fine. I didn't really have any interest in seeing her. So when I looked at the interview, when I looked at the preview for the interview, I'm like, okay, Carl's gonna interview her. I see it anytime. That was just like Lisa Ray. He had interviewed Lisa Ray. I seen the clips and I'm like, I ain't here to think about no Lisa Ray. But when I seen the clips of Drea, I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Hi, Pookie. I was like, oh my God, what the hell? So I said, okay, well, now that I've seen these clips, I'm kind of peeking at her because I want to know what is going on because the clips look like they were really, really good from the interview. So I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch it. And I think I did myself some justice sitting down doing so because I really, really enjoyed the interview. I really, 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 really enjoyed the interview. It definitely opened my eyes to some things. It gave me some different perspective, and it was almost 2 hours. Now, I know some folks act as though they can't stomach Carlos King, and other folks act like they don't have the time to sit through a whole interview. So I decided to do a recap for you guys so you can know what the interview is about. And then, like I said, if you feel like moving forward, you want to go watch it, that's fine. But in any event, let's get into it. I got notes. I took notes. It was a lot of notes because the interview was only 2 hours. But okay, let's get into it. So the interview started off with something I like, which is Carlos always allows the person to go back. He always allows the person to go back and kind of talk about their history and their upbringing, which is something that I enjoy because a lot of times when you hear how people came up and the way they were raised and who they were raised by and some of the things that they endured growing up, then it kind of gives you a different perspective about the person and their adult life. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, please hit the thumbs up on this video. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn your notification bells on. Welcome to the Operation Hill 100 Hearts, where we discuss healing, humor, and hot motherfucking topics. And today, our hot topic is the Carlos King interview with Andrea Kelly, R. Kelly's ex-wife. Right? So the interview started, and of course, in Carlos fashion, he said, listen, we're gonna go all the way back because I want to know some things about you. So she explained to him that she has been dancing her entire life. She was like, listen, I've started dancing before I even started crawling. And my family always known like it was something that was in my blood. It's something I love to do. And it also comes very natural to me, right? She said she grew up on the south side of Chicago, which I was like, okay, I didn't know her and R. Kelly grew up in the same neighborhood. I thought he met her along the way, which he did. But she also grew up in Chicago like him as well, right? And she was like, she was very small when she was younger, very petite, very bubbly. She was like, and growing up in Chicago, if that doesn't mean you get a pass, they will still dive on you. She was like, so throughout like her junior high school and high school years, she definitely fought. And for her, it was like, listen, I got to do what I got to do. I'm growing up in the trenches. I'm not afraid to get in the paint with these people. So I was like, oh, okay. So then Carlos was like, well, let me ask, did you ever take any professional dancing lessons? Because you dance very, very, very well. So what she said was no. She said absolutely not. She said my family could not afford to pay for me to take any professional dance lessons. If it came down to the light bill of my lessons, it was a light bill every single time. She was like, so for her, dance just came natural to her. Her aunt danced, her mother danced, her grandmother danced. So for her, it was just something that came natural, right? She was like, but she always regretted the fact that she had never taken any like professional lessons. And she said as she got older, she had went to Debbie Allen's dance school. And she was like, she had an encounter with Felicia Rashad, which is Debbie Allen's sister, of course, my girl Claire Huxtable. And she was like, that made her really, really change her perspective about not being professionally trained to dance. She said that Felicia Rashad said to her, you not being professionally trained is not your downfall. It's actually your gift. And that resonated with me. That resonated with me because I took that to mean that folks go to school and folks are once again trained to learn a certain skill set. And then there are folks who have that skill set naturally because of who they are. And I think about that in my own field when I'm working with people. As you guys know, I work with young people in my primary job, and then in my own business, I work with people of all ages. And a lot of times at my primary job, you'll have PhD holders and all of these people that, again, they've been trained, they read every book, they've graduated from every institution, but they're always coming to me for help. And I'm looking at them like, none of your training could show you how to do this, but no, because they don't have the natural knack for it. And as for me, I just have a natural talent when it comes to connecting with people. I get that from my parents. I get that from my parents. Both of my parents are very charismatic. They connect with people easily. They have a quality that people respond to that draws people into them and makes them want to be around them. And for me, it's the same for me. So I didn't have to get a lot of professional training. I just have to show who I am in my life experiences, and things could just flow. So when Drea said that Felicia Rashad said to her, it's not your downfall, it's your gift. I was like, wow, that's something that I feel as well. So that made me feel good. Right? Hey, Tifa girl. So she said she ended up taking a few dance classes at the high school, and then she opened up her own dance studio and she did audition for R. Kelly. Right? She said, and people think that she was just a dancer for R. Kelly turn wife. She was like, no, 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 no. I am highly skilled in my craft. So because of that, he made me the principal dancer and the choreographer. Right? So she was like, when she shared that, Carlos King was like, okay, well, now that opens up the door for us to talk about R. Kelly. Right. So she was like, when she first met Robert, she was living with her fiance and they were about to get married. So I was like, okay, girl, well, how the hell you get with R. Kelly when you was on your way to marriage? So she was like, but her and R. Kelly built a bond. Oh, sorry, y'all. She was like, her and R. Kelly built a bond because of their love for the craft, right? He loved music. She loved choreographing, styling, doing everything that supports music. She was like, so from then they had bonded from there, right? And because she had a vision, like he could write the music and sing the music, and she could bring his vision to life. So they was like a good team. Pretty much she put together most of the production, meaning like wardrobe, dancers. She was making sure she hired the right dancers. She was making sure they did the right dances to certain songs. And then on top of that, she was a part of a lot of that. So not only was she putting all this stuff together, designing and everything else for the set, she also was a part of it. She said that she did the choreography for Happy People, Toya Toya, Summer Bunnies. She did all their wardrobe. She performed in all the videos. She been to all of the award ceremonies standing side by side with him, right? So she was like, she gets a lot of flack for keeping the last name Kelly. And she was like, but she feels like she helped build her resume and her mantra under working for R. Kelly. And she did some excellent work for him. So she was like, I know that he is this type of man and he's done those things, but that doesn't take away from what he has contributed to music. And his contribution to music is great. And I'm a part of that contribution to help make it great. So she was like, that is pretty much why she doesn't want to give up the name. That's one of the reasons. I know for me, I was like, absolutely not. But did I understand what she was saying? 100%. I just don't agree with it. I feel like whether a man is famous or not, whether they make money or not, whether they're whatever type of person they are, if we're married, once we get divorced, you can have your name. Even if you're a good person who never did nothing, you can have your name. Because I feel like personally, when you get married, taking a person's name is also like taking a piece of their identity for yourself, right? So now we become one. Once we get divorced, bitch, we separate. So absolutely not. I don't still want your name. Take it back, take your identity, and take your ass up out my face. So while I understood what Drea was saying, I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I didn't have to. I just love the fact that she was able to in this interview, and I'm gonna tell you why I loved it, and it changed my perspective on it, which was why I was like, girl, we owe Drea an apology. She is excellent at breaking down what happened, her role in what took place, what needed to happen moving forward, how she got into that predicament, and who she is now. And I can appreciate that because a lot of times when you do hear some people's stories, and most times you don't because people don't come forward with their stories, but when you do, a lot of times they cannot make the connection to how they got in that situation. So you'll hear things like, I was just a great girl until I met Larry, and then he just abused me and took me away from my family, and I just don't know what happened. I just stayed underneath him, and I didn't, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of paints the picture of the victim, like, okay, where you was just perfect before you met this person, and all of a sudden he just changed your whole life. But like, it doesn't really give you no backstory. And for me, I don't know if it's the Aquarius in me, and I also don't want to be seen as sensitive, but it's just who I am. I most times need to understand, like, well, how did that happen? And for Drea Kelly, she was able to break down how it happened. She said she came from an abusive background. So R. Kelly being abusive towards her, while she never liked it, it was familiar to her because she had been through it way before she even met him. But let me stay in alignment with my notes, because if I lose that, then I'm gonna go crazy, right? Um, she also shared that keeping her last name Kelly, it connects her to her children. So she was saying that, like case in point, say they go somewhere and it's like, oh, okay, well, we don't want to talk to you or be cool with you or do business with you because you're a Kelly, right? She was like, and then that leaves her kids out on the island. And she was like, she'll be damned if her kids gonna be out on anything alone. So if y'all gonna treat them that way because they are Kelly, then I'm gonna be right along with that treatment because I'm a Kelly as well. So she did have a few reasons why she felt like she should keep the name, and that was one of the reasons as well, is that it connected to her children. What she also said, which made a lot of sense to me as well, she said that the only reason why I'm getting all of these opportunities is because I'm Andrea Kelly. If I was Andrea Jones, y'all wouldn't give a damn about who I was. It's the fact that I'm Andrea Kelly that makes folks want to reach out to me, that makes folks want to involve me in speaking engagements, that makes folks want to hear my story. The only reason why I kind of sort of disagree with Drea there, because I feel like even if you go back to your maiden name or you take on a new husband's name, you'll always be R. Kelly's ex-wife. So even if your name is not Kelly, you'll still be R. Kelly's ex-wife, and that's really the story, right? Even if you never took his name in the first place, you would still be a person of interest because you're R. Kelly's ex-wife. So I felt like that was kind of a weird reason to keep the name, but I understood how she was trying to land a plane, right? Um, Boom, boom, boom. Name work, she doesn't move forward. Okay. Carlos then asks, well, aside from the work you did with R. Kelly, when did you guys start to become emotionally attached? Like what caused the romantic relationship, right? So she was like, remember, she was on tour with him when she auditioned, she automatically got the job. She became the hot pitch queen bitch. So they was on tour everywhere. She said she came back from the tour, her fiance had a baby. So she was like, I'm sorry, whose child is that? So he was like, that had been my baby, but we could still get married. And Drea was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a fucking dub. She was like, but you see how God works. She was like, do you know that he eventually found out that that wasn't his baby? But either way, she was like, she was long gone at that point and she was done, right? So she said, remember, her and R. Kelly had developed such a good working relationship, a good friendship, that now they're spending more time with each other. She's crying on his shoulder about her losing her fiance. He's love bombing her. And the next thing you know, they was rocking and rolling. Drea is an Aquarius. Y'all know that's my sign. Drea is an Aquarius. Her birthday is January 28th. And after she shared that and the way she verbalizes things and how connected she is to her emotions and things like that, it kind of pretty much I could see her Aquarius traits right there, right? So anywho, like I said, she said she was crying on his shoulder and all that. She said when she met R. Kelly, she was 19 years old and R. Kelly was 26. She was like, well, he was a megastar by that time already. He had just finished Honey Love. And she was like, they fell in love. Right, they fell in love, and she was like, again, once again, he was love bombing her and being so sweet and serenading her. But she said she dropped a lot of bombs here that really, really, really made sense, and it's good that she's doing the work to assist women in domestic violence because she has a lot of information surrounding domestic violence. Right, so she said. Most women don't know the difference between a charming man and a cunning man. She said they look the same. A charming man is going to take you to dinner, buy you flowers, buy you gifts, even tell you how much you remind him of his mother and how much he loves you. And a cunning man is going to do the same thing. She said the difference is a man that's trying to charm you and dote you, that's a healthy relationship. She said a man that's cunning is trying to get your defenses down and spin you in their web, right? And she was like, once again, you so caught up in the love and thinking this is great and grand that you now falling into it. You sharing everything with this man. You giving everything to this man. You sacrificing everything to this man. And that's what he want because now got him. And she was pretty much like, that's what happened with R. Kelly. Right. And she was like, he also came from an abusive background. He was illiterate. She was like, so in a lot of those ways, him and her connected. Right. So I was like, okay, girl. So she started talking about the conversation came up about how men prey on broken women. And they use their trauma against them and so on and so forth. And she was like, one of the things that I think people don't understand, she was like, people always fast forward to the physical abuse. And they say things to you like, oh, if they would have put their hands on me one time, I was leaving them. She was like, but what people don't understand is that abuse before it gets physical, it's so many other things before that they already have you captivated. So them getting physical is just the end result. Like case in point, she was like, you can be financially abused, you could be emotionally abused, you could be sexually abused. She was like, so they have already reeled you in. So by the time they put their hands on you, it's kind of hard for you to leave because they damn near got your mind, right? She was like, how many times have you been called the bitch and somebody saying they'll slap the shit out you? And she was like, all of those things are a form of abuse, verbal abuse. She was like, and those are the things that usually is the lead up to the actual physical violence. She was like, 90% of the time, it's always a lead up. It's not just somebody randomly slapping the dog shit out you, right? So she was like, and pretty much he was able to do that, which is getting your head. She also explained, she was like, a healthy relationship is good days with bad moments. And she said a toxic relationship is bad days with good moments. And that resonated with me because even in my own relationship, a couple of years back, there was a hiccup, right? No relationships are perfect. And I remember during that hiccup, thinking about ending my relationship. And I remember that it made me sad to think about that because I felt like I have a good relationship. We're just experiencing a bad moment, right? And again, that's double-sided because when you are experiencing a bad moments, you're not saying to yourself, my man is perfect right now. He just made a mistake. No, you saying to yourself, if I stab this motherfucker in the chest and fucking bury the bones, will anybody fucking know? And then on top of that, you are looking at them like they're the fucking devil because of whatever took place that's making the moment bad. But if you're able to, which God was so good, I was able to do, but not many of us are. And this was my first time being able to do it. If you're able to kind of zoom out and take a look at the grand scape of your relationship, then you can say, am I in a toxic relationship where we always in bad moments and we have a little bits and pieces of good times, or am I in a good relationship and right now it's just a bad time, right? So I really, really like that she said that because that is how you determine if you're going to stay in your relationship or if it is a good relationship. So I was like, okay, I felt that, right? So then she started to talk about how far back her being exposed to abuse went. And she said that, of course, she was raised by her parents, but then she was also raised with her grandparents. And she said her grandfather was actually a pastor. And she was like, her grandfather was beating the shit out of her grandmother. Right. And she was like, she was so shocked because number one on the list, like, we're looking at you as this great man, as a leader, as a pillar of the community, as a pastor. And people don't know that when we get home, you be beating the dog shit out of grandma. She said, but what she had to really reconcile with was not even just that he beat the grandmother, but everything the grandmother did after he beat her. So she was like, her grandmother treated that abusive situation as though it was normal. She still got up and cooked and cleaned for him and treated him like he was the king. And she said from then she was taught that that's what you're supposed to do. Right. And she was like, another abusive relationship she had was with her mom. And she said her mom is really narcissistic. And she said, her mom helped develop her insecurities because every time she put her hands on her, she would hit her in the face. And she was like, that was heartbreaking for her. She was like, because, your face is the first thing that people see. That's how you introduce yourself, your physical being. She was like, and for whatever reason, she would put her hands on me and try to make that part of me look bad. She was like, so sometimes when I see people in person and they say to me, oh, you look so much good in person. She was like, it just does something to her because she just remembers how her mother worked overtime to try to make her look bad and make her appearance off and, just a lot of abuse. She was like, so, once again, once she met R. Kelly, it was like, I mean, we could do this because you know what I'm going through. I know what you've been through. So we can make this thing work, right? She talked about how most of the women that are abused meet their abusers very young. Most of the time they're teenagers. And she talked about, and this is something that I was like, wow, this shit is real. She talked about how the abusers have a whole community. And she was like, everybody is within that community, right? She was like, it's security guards, it's executives um, at music labels. She talked about it just being a whole community, drivers, family members, the entourage, the city officials. She was like, everybody is within that community. She says, so it's not just necessarily, oh, you're dealing with a man that's abusing you, get away from him. She said, because everybody is on his side because he is so powerful. He has all of this money. So trying to escape from him feels almost impossible. She was like, so like, say case in point. She said, you see what happened with Cassie? She said, you see how hard that was for her to get away, how he dragged her back and for her. She said, imagine trying to do that while you're pregnant. Imagine you're trying to do that with 2 kids, 3 kids. She was like, so it's very hard. She said, and let's just pretend you do get away. Let's just pretend that to some degree you're able to get out the door and get downstairs to the car. He got his security guards waiting right there to bring your ass back upstairs. And now you're going to get your ass beat. Right. And she was like, so sometimes thinking about leaving is harder than staying. So you just feel like maybe I should just stay, right? And she was like, listen, everybody is in on this. It's a whole machine surrounding the abuser. She was like, and just as a woman, I didn't have the power to go against the machine. She was like, to a point, even judges, are involved in the machine that helps fuel that person because that person makes everybody money. So because of that, everybody wants that person to be able to do what they do, no matter how fucked up it is, because we're all eating. I was like, wow. Right. She said people think that she just started coming forward to talk. She said, no, I didn't. She said years ago, she had put in a restraining order against R. Kelly. She was like, and because that was the time he was working with like Madonna, Michael Jackson, Celine Dion, she was like, Jive Records was like, absolutely not. Let's quiet this bitch up. She was like, so they put out a statement on her behalf and said her and R. Kelly just had a spat, because the restraining order was public record, right? And she was like, first of all, I didn't put that out. They put that out for me to shut me up. Right. And she was like, but she didn't share what happened that caused her to put the restraining order in. Of course, she was getting abused the entire time, but I just would have liked to know what actually took place that made her want to put the restraining order in. Like, what was the breaking point? But she didn't tell all of that, right? She talked about how much flack she's getting about putting a book out. And she was like, because people think it's just only about R. Kelly. And she was like, no, the book is about my life. It's just that R. Kelly is a huge factor. And I got 3 fucking kids with him. She was like, but other than that, this book is not just about him. It's about me and my life and everything that I've been through, and it doesn't start with him. My grandfather, my mother, my grandmother. It has a lot of, determining factors that make me the woman that I am today. And then she said something that resonated with with me as well. And I felt really, really bad, which is why the title of this video was that we owe Drea an apology, me in particular. She said that Black women are not protecting each other. And she said that Black women are more advocates for R. Kelly than anybody else that she has to go up against. And she was like, they are mean, they are nasty, they are judgmental, they are disrespectful, and they do everything in their power to diminish her instead of support her, right? And when she said that, it made me kind of flinch because I have been very, very judgmental of people in these type of situations. And am I judging harshly? I don't feel I am. And am I judging with malicious intent? I don't feel I am. But I am judging because I have a lot of questions surrounding how you got into it, what you did when you was in it, where was everybody else, why you didn't do this. And what she did a good job of explaining is that this is not just something has happened to me. Let me just get up and fix it. It's not easily fixed, because if it was, I would never fucking been in it. She said, so it's a lot of factors that go into being abused. She was like, and people think that it's easy when, forget about the physical piece, the psychological piece is so damaging to you. She spoke about something, and she called it, I want to say that's a little further down in my notes, but I'll say it now because I remember it. It's called the caged puppy syndrome. That's what she called it. And she was like, because she was talking about how you could really, really get in trouble if you broke one of his rules. And she was like, the caged puppy syndrome is like if you get a dog, right? And you put it inside the cage and you beat it and you yell at it and you do all these things to tell them to stay in the cage. They know that there's some repercussions if they leave the cage. She said, you can go and open the cage and leave it open and be telling the dog they could get out, but they're so afraid of the repercussions that you have already enforced on them that even though the door's open and they can just walk out the cage freely, they still are afraid to do it. And I'm not gonna lie, it brings tears to my eyes right now. It brought tears to my eyes when she said it. It brought tears to my eyes when she said it, because when I'm there questioning about how you got in this and what happened, and where was everybody, how you was able to leave this time and you ain't leave that time, I felt the guilt of me now asking all of these questions as though, and to some degree, it's the abuse, this the person that's being abused fault, when it's not my fault. I honestly do not know what to do, and the things that I've tried is not working. So when she said that, I was like, wow, although I'm not the type of person to get down in people comments and say nasty things, and more than likely I probably won't say anything nasty, period, but I was very, very inquisitive and and wanting to know like why and who or what, and and to some degree, I'm not even gonna lie, not even believing the person, because it's like, so wow, it was that easy this time, but not this easy. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like when she spoke about those Black women that I could be classified as one of them. And that really, really had me reevaluate how I look at these women that have been abused, especially because I've never been in that predicament. So it's also me now sitting high and looking low because you've never been there, Khadija. So how dare you now act as though you know what the person is going through, right? So that part really, really made me sad. I'm like, wow, she did land the plane with that one. She did definitely land the plane with that one. And I felt it 100%. And she did, change my perspective on the way I view these people and also the way I treat them, right? So, Carlos asked Drea about why she said at one point for people to still stream R. Kelly music and so on and so forth. And she was like, listen, let's be clear, right? Let's be clear. There is R. Kelly and then there's Robert Kelly. R. Kelly is the persona. She said, if anybody on this planet try to take away R. Kelly's talent, I will have to go against him. It's a lie. It's a lie. R. Kelly has God-given talent. He is an excellent singer, songwriter. She said, so that I'm not taking that away from him, right? She said, number one, let's streaming his music is how I got my child support. But even so, I cannot take away from who he is as an artist, right? His R. Kelly persona, wonderful. Robert Kelly, the man that I was married to, that's the man that I grew the disdain and the venom and the hate for because of the way he treated me. Those are two different people, right? But what I did like about Drea, and this is when she was, remember what I told y'all she was saying earlier, how she contributed to his Cause success. And she clocked that motherfucking T. She said, let me tell y'all something. People don't like when I say it. She said, but he didn't have a Grammy before he met me, and he ain't had a Grammy since I left. The whole time when he was with me, he was able to receive those awards and accolades. And she was explaining how, you know, if when a man chooses a wife, he chooses a good thing, right? And she was like, me being able to provide that stability and home life for him and take care of his kids and provide him the space to be able to go do what he needs to do made him want to make movies, like made him want to make songs like I Believe I Can Fly, Step in the Name of Love, Half Want a Baby, 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 Baby. Then she started to run down those times in her life and the reasons why he made those songs, because they pertain to like the birth of their daughter. You know, she I'm telling you, Drea was not playing with this interview. Drea came fucking ready. Drea came ready. She was like, so when you see her celebrating, it's because she contributed to his music in a phenomenal way, and she's proud of that. She's also proud that of the mother that she is to her children, and that the wife that she was to R. Kelly when she was with him. Right. So Carlos was like, well, listen, how do you reconcile those people? Right? Like, how do you make sense of Robert Kelly versus R. Kelly, right? And she said, well, if nothing else, I could look at my children. She said, my children have the best part of R. Kelly. She said her children are so musically inclined. They play all these different instruments. They can write songs. They can sing. She said, my kids know Trapped in the Closet front to back. So that good part of their father that makes him an excellent entertainer, he has passed that on to my kids. So I'm able to reconcile that there is some good in him when I look at my children, right? And she said, you know, people are getting mad at me that I've also been able to make peace with the fact that he is my family. She said, this is my kid's father. I have a grandbaby. He's my grandbaby's grandfather. So while he may not be the best man, he's still my family. And again, I try to have these conversations sometimes with other people as well, because sometimes that's true. You know, sometimes your brother or your cousin or your uncle is the jerk to another woman. And that other woman will want you to go against your family or disown your family. And it's like, I'm not saying that he's not who he was and who he is to you. I'm not even saying that he wasn't those things to me. But at the end of the day, he is still my family. And she was like, she has found some peace in that because she can't change it. You know what I'm saying? So Carlos asked how she handles getting all of the flack, you know, and she said, listen, I have accepted that I'm the person that is going to get the flack. She said, what I've also accepted is that I'm no longer being humble. I am gifted. I am talented. I have a number of things that I've been put on this earth to do. And people don't like the fact that I can say things like, humble. People don't want you to be a little bit less confident. They want you to be digestible for them. They want you to be relatable. She was like, but in doing so, you shortchange yourself. And she was like, she's just tired of being this person where she has to like dump herself down so people could like her. She don't give a damn about being liked. Yes, she is R. Kelly's ex-wife. Yes, she did survive that relationship. Yes, she's still keeping the last name. Yes, she's going to make something good out of it. Yes, she's the mother of his children. And yes, she is moving forward and doing everything she's supposed to do as a woman. Right? So, Carlos talked about how that resonated with him and how, you know, folks try to make him feel small and yada, 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 right? And she talked about how people create their own narratives about her. And if anybody knows me, if anybody knows me, this is probably one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. I hate it. I hate it. And it happens to me so often. People will create a narrative about you that has no truth to it. And you looking at the person like, why did you do that? Why? Why are you lying? Like, are you sick? Are you sick? So when she brought that part up, I was like, girl, I know what you're going through. I don't even, at this point, I don't even want anybody telling me about what the narrative is because it's so far from the truth that it's scary, right? So anyway, she said that her divorce was finalized in 2009. She was like, but I left when my son was 1.5 years old. My son is 22 years old right now. So I was going from R. Kelly. So all that, I lived down in a house that he was in Atlanta that he was bringing the girls to. I was gone. I was gone. Me and my children were gone. I weren't there. She said, but I'll tell you a part that is true. She said the part that Sparkle shared about her, the part that Sparkle shared about her having to knock on the door to use the restroom or knock on the door to get something to drink. I mean, to use the bathroom or to get some food. She said to get some food to use the restroom. She said that was the truth. Hold on. She said that was true. She said that was true. I think that's at the point when she brought up that's the part she brought up, the cage puppy syndrome, because she was saying that it's like you would face major repercussions if you broke one of his rules, right? She was like, and he's going to teach you after you did it the first time that you would never do it again. But one thing I can appreciate about her, she didn't go into detail, because I had already watched the R. Kelly documentary. I cannot see any more of I just can't. I just cannot watch any more of or hear any more of how abusive he is, because it makes me sick to my stomach, right? But she said again, that just goes to show how much of a mental hole that this person can actually have on you. So it was just that part was just sad, right? And then Carlos X, he was like, well, how was you able to get away? And she said that one day, she said she left because he verbally abused her in front of her daughter. She said they had gone on well, she said, first of all, and the reason why she did it that day was because when he did it to her, it reminded her of watching her grandmother take it from her grandfather, and how watching how her grandmother handled it, it made her feel like it was okay for her to now endure the same thing. And she didn't want her daughter to follow that same path. So she was like, I got to put a stop to it now. So she said they had one on vacation. So she was like, while they were on vacation, like, you take pictures. She was like, at this time, this is years ago. So you take the pictures and you go get them developed. And she was like, while they were taking the picture, somebody photobombed her. So she said she didn't even think nothing of it, right? She was like, she didn't know, because the person was behind them and they was kind of like doing, like the peace sign, a picture, whatever. She said, so when they got the pictures developed, I guess R. Kelly wasn't there when they was taking those pictures, and he saw the picture. He was like, what is this? So she was like, well, I don't know, because she like, it's my first time seeing a picture too. I didn't know this guy was behind me. So she like, I don't know what that, like, I don't know. She was like, he started getting so disrespectful. And she was like, even the daughter was like, Dad, why are you talking to mom like that? And she was like, when she seen that, she was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. She was like, so from then it clicked in her to, I got to get up out of here. I got to get up out of here. She was like, but I want people to understand telling victims to just leave is unrealistic. It's unrealistic in so many ways. And number one of the ways is it's unrealistic financially. And it's unrealistic financially, especially when you have children. She said you depend and rely on that person for everything. She said she didn't have no access to no bank accounts. Her name wasn't ever on none. She said she never even had a credit card in her own name when she was married to R. Kelly. Right? So Carlos then asked about Drea's daughter, because apparently, I didn't know about this, but one of the children, I think it's her oldest daughter, revealed that R. Kelly had, played with her, right? So Andrea was, she was explaining the situation. She was like, and people think I didn't do anything. She said what happened was the judge had, it was court ordered that he could get visitation. And what happened was, I think the kids could go to him like 2 weekends out the month or whatever. So she was like, she feels like she know the day it happened because her daughter called her, was like, Mom, I want to come home, I want to come home. She was like, she was so upset, crying. She's like, tell me what's wrong. Like, I just want to come home. So she said she went to the police station and was explaining to him, like, I need to go get my daughter. I know it's court order for her to be over there, but she's calling me, she's crying, she's this, she's that. And the cops basically was saying, like, no, it's his it's court ordered, and he has the right to have them this weekend. If you go over there, you're going to be trespassing and we're going to arrest you. And she was just saying, she was like, at that point, she just said it made her so aware of how even how many people is on this man payroll, the judge, the cops, and how powerful he was, and how he was holding that over her. And she just broke down. She just broke down. She broke down crying. Carlos got up, he went and he hugged her. And I was thinking to myself, and again, it goes back to what I was telling y'all. I put it in my notes and I'm gonna say it here, but I was telling y'all that sometimes I can be a little judgy, because I'm there like, but Drea, why you ain't tell her? Because what she said was, she was like, when she came I mean, she didn't tell that happened when she was a little girl. She didn't reveal that to Dre until she was a teenager. And I'm thinking to myself, why the hell you ain't just ask her when she came back from the house? Why you didn't try to get the details then? But again, that's me being judgy. So I'm like, okay, listen, she didn't reveal it until then. I guess she wants to protect her mom, so on and so forth. So, like I said, Carlos was consoling her, and trying to, get her together because she broke down at that point, right? So then she said Kelly had so much money and power. He had attorneys telling her the consequence of what's going to happen if she press charges. She said then the lawyer fees are freaking astronomical, and R. Kelly has a team of lawyers working on his behalf, and he had the right to never show up to court. Meanwhile, she's filming R&B divas or R&B exes or whatever the show was. She got to keep flying back to make sure she make it to court. Meanwhile, he's never showing up to court, and that's just because he's R. Kelly, and nobody wants to go against the machine. She was like, she wants everybody to know that they need to add the judicial system to the machine because they are also who is on the payroll of R. Kelly, and he makes the wheels go around, right? So Carlos asked her, he was like, well, how are you now financially? And she was like, financially, I'm better. I'm better. She was like, and more importantly, I'm better because, I'm doing it without anybody's restrictions and on my own. So I don't need anybody to give me anything. I got this, right? She was like, really and truly, I'm not impressed by these labels and all these other things. I'm more so impressed with the work that God has put me out here to do and the impact that it's actually having on these people experiencing domestic violence, right? So Carlos didn't ask. He was like, "Well, can you share some telltale signs that a man is abusive, right?" And Drea talked about how women don't know the difference between compromise and sacrifice, right? But before she went into detail about that, she brought up an example that I bring up all the time when I'm trying to land a plane. She was like, "When you're younger," and she was like, "It starts when you're young." She was like, "When you are a little kid and it's a boy in your class that keeps pulling your hair and pushing you. When you go to tell a teacher or you go to tell a family member, she's like, what do they tell you? Oh, he's just doing that because he likes you." So she was like, from early on, girls are taught to feel like when a man is violent towards you, he likes you. And young men are taught that, when you're violent against a girl, that's showing your emotions for her. And I swear to God, I always bring that up because for me, it's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I know I have been friends with women that would say things like, "Oh, I like the nigga that's going to ignore me and act like they don't care and act all nonchalant." I don't like it. I don't like it. Even something that small, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want you pulling my hair and pushing me to make me feel. No, those things don't make me feel special. They don't make me feel good, and I don't like it. And even when I was a little girl, I never liked the boy. Oh, he must like me. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it was like, wow, I've used that example before. And she was like, when she brought up about compromise and sacrifice, she was saying that compromise is okay, now that I'm in a relationship or I'm a mom or I'm a wife, you kind of curtail some of the things that you would normally do because you're becoming a different woman. She was like, but women that sacrifice means that they change their whole entire lifestyle to make another person happy. And no matter what that is, she's like, and then you start isolating yourself from your family and your friends and, allowing them to do everything that they need to do to make them happy while you're only contributing to their happiness. And she said at that point, you're no longer compromising, you're sacrificing. And that's not a healthy relationship. Then she talked about, do women know how realistic it is? Another form of abuse that you can be R-worded by your husband. So she said when she was seeing a therapist said that to her. She like, now come on, girl, you going too far, right? And she was like, no, really think about it. And when she thought about it, she said she has been hogtied. She said she has been threesomes that she hasn't consented to. She has violence used against her. She's been coerced. All of these things have happened under the guise of this is my husband. She was like, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's not legal, whether you guys are married or not. She was like, and when she started having that conversation with women, they would share that they've been in the same predicament, but they don't see it as such because that's their husband. So then Carlos asked, he was like, well, is there any advice that you want to give women who want to leave an abusive relationship? And she said, number one, have a plan. Have a plan, have a detailed plan. She said, number two, share with your family and friends because they can help what they don't know. So you need to share with them what's going on. You don't have to tell them where you're going because you don't want nobody to have a moment of weakness and tell your husband. So you just let them know you're leaving. If you don't hear from me in this amount of time, call the police, so on and so forth. She said, have some cash handy because you don't want to have any traces of yourself going into a bank or going to an ATM. So make sure you have some cash handy. She was like, I have 2 escape routes. She was like, a drop off and a pickup, a drop off and a pickup. She was like, because you don't know, somebody could be following you and everything. She said, and if you are in the right state of mind enough, she was like, document and record as much as you can. Take pictures of your bruising. If you can record him being verbally abusive to you, any type of receipts that you can have to prove your claim, because once you're gone, it's going to get ugly. She was like, and you got to be prepared for the fight. And she said, last but not least, do not look back. Do not look back. She said, when I left Robert, I never looked back. Ever. She said, I left with $2,500, my kids, in a duffel bag, and I never looked back. And she was like, people don't understand. They always telling people, oh, just leave. She was like, you don't know how much thought has to get put into leaving, how expensive that is. She was like, let's just say you do leave, you move to another state, you're trying to register your kids in school, but you don't have their records. So now you got to go back to that neighborhood and you got to pray that somebody in that neighborhood don't see you and drag you back to him and he don't try to kill you for leaving in the first place. You know what I'm saying? She said, so it's a very vicious cycle and it's also a very traumatic one. And you have to be incredibly strong to withstand it. And she's very, very proud of herself because she's been able to survive this shit. And in that moment, I felt proud of her too. I felt proud of her too. I felt happy for her. She has a book coming out. I don't know when this interview was, but she said the book was coming in December. So, of course, that's this month. It's called Under the Red Carpet. So I'm excited about her. And then she brought up something I didn't know. I guess Beyonce must have did her choreography in one of her videos. So she said she was so excited about that. She said for a few reasons. She was like, remember, our husbands did an album together, right? So I know who she is. She knows who I am. And she was like, I feel like her doing that choreography wasn't only about, oh, I just saw it online and decided to mimic it. It was more about, black woman to black woman, woman to woman, mom to mom. I see you. I see you. And she was like, that made her feel so good. She felt seen. Right. And she was like, another part of it that made her feel good is that she knows that Beyonce is also the victim of the haters and all this backlash and all these false narratives. And she was like, so she knows how it feels to be criticized and talked about from people that don't even fucking know you. She was like, so it felt good when she did her choreography. And she said also that Miss Tina follows her on IG. So that makes her excited. She shared that she teaches classes in Atlanta and she also travels with her classes. So like if you want to book her for like a private birthday situation for you and your homegirl, she does all of that, right? She says she's trying to figure out if she wants to get a permanent dance studio in Atlanta or she wants to go to Vegas because her classes are more or less burlesque and you could benefit from that in Vegas. Carlos basically said he thinks she should stay in Atlanta because she had worked with his cast on Bad and Bougie. And he was like, they really shared how her classes really, really helped to heal them in a way. So he was like, that's where your fan base is in Atlanta. He thinks she should stay there, right? She was letting folks know. She said, listen, if you come to my class, don't think you come to just twerk. You're going to have a whole experience. And if you don't, I didn't do my job. She said that is her ministry. She said she has been called to minister, to be an evangelist, to speak words of affirmation and to edify women through the power of dance. She was like, so you don't only leave here knowing how to shake it, pop, lock, and drop it. You actually have a whole experience where you release trauma. She was like, it's just such a whole to do. And she's so, so, so proud of it. She's so proud of it. She said people have even come to her to apologize because they thought that that's all she did when actually when they participated, they saw how much of an experience it was. She was like, and then she get a lot of flack because she doesn't put those experiences on Instagram. So people make jokes like, well, all she do is walk and pop, lock, and drop. And she like, yeah, I mean, listen, people are having breakthroughs and transformations and everything else in my dance classes. So I don't care what the people think, right? So then they reached the end of the interview. And if you guys look at the thumbnail for this video, I said something that she said in the end that really, really resonated with me. She said, women of color, take the cape off. It's time for us to take the cape off. Quit telling us we're strong black women because that S don't stand for strong. What y'all telling us is y'all are suffering black women and we celebrate you for it. And I was like, wow. 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 It really, really resonated with me because being strong is something that I pride myself on. It's something that I absolutely pride myself on, right? Being able to get up and keep going no matter what. And sometimes I wonder, is that a strength or a weakness? You know, I wonder, is there a point where you crack? Because throughout all this time, you have not stopped to absorb anything. You just got up and kept going. But the beauty in her story is that's exactly what she's doing. That's exactly what she's doing. Throughout all of the things that happened with her and R. Kelly, throughout everything that everybody has said and done to her, she's still getting up every day and she's still going. She's still going. So she says she plans on carrying this Kelly name into a whole new universe and spreading the legacy. And it was just such an empowering story because you could see through everything that she's been through. She's strong, she's talented, she's confident, she's beautiful, you know, and it's not something that I'm not trying to be these things. They're just who I am, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this book is going to do. I'm excited to see what's next for Dre. I'm actually going to get the book. I'm actually going to get the book and I'm going to read it because I want to hear the entirety of her story, you know, because even though she only gave snippets with Carlos, it was such intricate details to who she is as a woman, you know, and it's a very valuable woman because to go through all of that and still be able to stand tall and keep your head high and do what you need to do and support your family, you know, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. She also said to let the motherfuckers know she have lawyers upon lawyers upon lawyers. So if people keep going on her page and making videos about her to spread the false narrative, she will be suing motherfuckers and getting them information. Right? So, oh my God, I'm going to drop the link here. I'm going to drop the link. You guys go watch. I want y'all to go watch the interview. I think it was so good. I think it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. I think that it's worth watching. I think Drea is powerful, beautiful. I think her story is compelling. I think it's a story of strength and courage and survival. And that that's what's important. So you guys go make sure you watch the interview. Let me know what you think. It's on Carlos King. It's on Carlos King Reality of the King podcast, and it's on YouTube. And I think you can listen to the audio on the podcast app. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are new here, please make sure you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, you turn on your notification bell so you can get all the shit that I drop. Make sure y'all tune into the Dear DJs that I dropped this week. I might come back in a little while and talk about Married to Medicine, Real Housewives of Potomac, and something else because I just watched an interview with Giselle, right? But in any event, you guys, if I don't, enjoy your Friday evening and have a nice night.